Hey, Mama Tree here. This is part 2 of the Book of Forest. Over the next several days, I was everywhere at once. When Mom or Dad would say something like, "I bet Forrest has flown to Mars," or "he's probably riding his bike on the rings of Saturn," I would remember that I could try that. But mostly my interest was in being with the friends and family whose hearts were breaking open. To be honest, I felt a mixture of things. I felt very humbled by all of the love, and I felt very sad for all of the grief. And I felt frustrated that everyone thought I was gone. Well, almost everyone. There were some who sensed I was near. My mother called me to hold her and snuggle each night at bedtime. And while I could have been anywhere in the universe, I wanted to be with my family. Right away, both Mom and Dad discussed and agreed that they didn't want to hold me back. They both told me several times that I could stay a week at least until the funeral, and then I should feel free to move on. But I didn't want to. I told my mom again and again that I could be everywhere all at once. I can start a new life and be a spirit still recognizable as Forrest. She didn't always understand. She doesn't always have the brain power to focus on what I am saying. She asked me to be patient and willing to repeat myself as often as it takes. The reason I could start a new life and still be a spirit called Forrest is that the new tiny human won't be ready to call his full personality into himself for many years, and he may not ever be capable of fully merging with his higher self. And besides, what I keep telling my mother is that I want to stay here with her and with the rest of the family because we have work to do. Mom and I have several special projects in queue. Dad and I have a good deal of work. Raven needs my help on a variety of things. All of these things were agreed to before we were born in our soul contracts. Also, for each and every person I have met and touched, there is a chance for me to support and influence them in the role of spirit guide for the rest of their lives. Some will not be conscious of this at all. For them, it will be like an idea that they feel as their own thought. For a very small few, I may be recognized as an unnamed spirit guide who is consulted at regular intervals. And for my mom, who is a witch, I will be a daily partner and consultant to a variety of works. I'm pretty excited about that. I feel lucky that she has the perceptive capacity to work together in this fashion. She often asks me about my feelings and my needs in this kingdom of light. I am not lonely, and I do not feel pain the way a human with a body does. Our worlds are overlaid atop one another. They are mirror images, though my world has the addition of webs and vines of light which intersect into complex patterns and structures, which resemble castles but are non-material. When emotion arises and passes through, we experience it, but as we have no bodies to contain it, it merely passes like the weather. When large catastrophes cause many humans to pour out negative emotion, our world of light becomes dim and trembles with the vibrations of torment. I think that's why so many of us attend to so many of you. We hate to see you suffer. And since the suffering gets lodged in your flesh, it reverberates at regular and irregular intervals, causing our entire world to flicker with instability. I am more affected by the grief of my friends and family than I am affected by an event in Africa, for example. However, global events affect us all universally. About my new world. Some of you call it heaven, or the fourth dimension, or Summerland, or a bunch of other names. This depends on the mythologies and metaphors you used to attempt to understand the afterlife. If you were a Christian, the light beings appear to you as Jesus and angels. My earthly orientation was towards science, and I enjoyed reading Greek and Norse mythology. What I understand now is that all the myths, all the holy books, they were all attempting to describe something which science hasn't been able to crack yet. The place where I reside now is like a kingdom of light, and we are all made of light. We are taller and more beautiful because we aren't subject to decay, entropy, and gravity. I will call this place Alfheim based on the Norse mythology, but please don't get hung up on that. It's just my word choice. My family up here might just as easily use any of the world religions to explain this. The light, which comprises All of Alfheim, including our bodies, is pure energy, and simultaneously it is pure information. If you could imagine a setting in your world, maybe a library building with a lawn and garden, the air is thick with threads connecting everything. They are made of light and look like spider webs in the morning. They connect all the trees, plants, buildings, and people. The things you see as part of your third-dimensional world are outlined in this light. But now consider that library building. It's full of books containing many fantasies and much knowledge. Since the threads of light that comprise Alfheim are pure information, the quantity of information contained within the library causes the Alfheim version of the structure to be much larger, brighter, and more intricate. Now consider that this library has copies of books that are very popular. So if one book was sold 1,000,000 times, there would be 1,000,000 threads connecting each copy, wherever they happen to be residing around the planet. Next, consider the number of people who have read one of these books. There is a thread of light from each book connecting all the copies with all the readers and connecting the author, editors, and printers. The threads tying back to the author are the largest or the thickest, and the author has threads connecting his or her sources for inspiration and information. So you can see why it is that our world is so luminous and spatially very complex. I think that's good for now. I'll read the next part real soon. Thanks.